Good morning. I'm Senior Atmospheric Scientist Andrew Pritchard with your Canadian Prairie Weather Story, brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. We'll jump into it here, but I got to tell you, I got a very similar forecast to the one I gave you a week ago. If you don't have time this morning, it's going to be shots of cold air, light doses of snow. That's your outlook over the next 7 to 10 days. That's probably your outlook until we get this whole North American pattern to break down. So rounds of light snow over the next 7 days. Bitterly cold temperatures settling back into the region. Friday through Monday, probably going to be the peak of this cold air mass. We're kind of dealing with the same thing down in the Corn Belt here in the U.S. across the Midwest. We're getting the same air masses you are, kind of just a couple of days later. So it's this pattern where we get several days of extreme cold, then the temperatures rebound back to, typical January levels, and then we get another one of these Arctic air masses dropping south. We get another stretch of, 3 to 4 days of bitterly cold temperatures. So that's what's coming Friday through Monday. Again, as this ridge west, trough east pattern just persists, we continue to see some signs here in that 2-week time frame that maybe the big trough here will kind of adjust. The ridge will slide off to the west. We just really continue to see the pattern reload. So that's what we've got as we head through the next 2 weeks or so. The infrared satellite picture here early on Wednesday morning really depicts the jet stream pattern well. We've got this big ridge of high pressure across the Pacific, the western U.S. here, just kind of blocking things up. This is very typical of La Nina, but the pattern overall is not really, the pieces are not where La Nina would be. But this kind of split jet stream flow that we see right here, this is rather typical here. So the flow, you see very weakened, kind of almost non-existent subtropical jet. And then on the north end here, we've got the polar branch of the jet stream is forced up and over the top of the ridge. If you're following my cursor here, where you see all the shaded colors, that's that jet stream flow, some Pacific moisture. That comes over the top of the ridge. And then we get these clipper systems that just kind of ride over the ridge and dive from northwest to southeast. And when we have a northwest to southeast storm track, those areas of low pressure, they tug some cold air out of the north. But as they make their journey over the Rockies, they're bringing a little bit of Pacific moisture, but they're really moisture starved. When we compare that with storms that are lifting out of the southwest, that are tapping into an open Gulf of Mexico and transporting that moisture northward in a much more significant sense. So, we're getting areas of low pressure that are traversing the prairie. So it's not as if the jet stream is completely quiet overhead, but it's a storm track that, while it's active, brings light doses of snow and tugs some Arctic air down into the region. So checking in with the radar here Wednesday morning, some light doses of snow to be found here. One area exiting southern Manitoba, moving on into western Ontario. Another area of some light flurries, maybe a wintry mix, as temperatures kind of hovering right around freezing there between Edmonton and Calgary. That too will kind of just slide down through southern Alberta as we head through the rest of the day today. Now, look at the temperatures here. I kind of want to point something out. It is warmer up north in the Canadian Prairie than it is down here, bottom right there where I'm recording this video in the Midwest, parts of central Illinois. We're waking up to temperatures around between minus 15 to minus 20 right now, minus 25 across parts of the upper Midwest and Wisconsin there. As this latest dose of Arctic air dives into the region, you're seeing those temperatures rebounding as that air mass that you just were seeing exits the area. And then I just mentioned there, we've got that next shot coming in over the next 48 hours. So the pattern just reloads, but right now, current snapshot, you're close to freezing. Well, we're well below freezing, well below 0 Celsius here in parts of central Illinois. Again, just kind of an interesting collision there, or interesting disparity, typically not what we would see there. But let's look at the forecast precipitation here. Again, we have a disturbance that comes in ahead of the colder air late Thursday into Friday. When we time this one out, we'll bring it back. Again, the areas of snow off to the east and to the west here on Wednesday morning. Nothing much of significance expected out of either. It's as we move into Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening. We'll look for a corridor of heavier snow north of Highway 16. That's where the more significant accumulations will occur. Otherwise, look for some snow showers and some snow flurries, maybe some snow squalls. So certainly some blustery winds and some bursts of snow moving across the prairie late Thursday into Thursday night into Friday morning. By Saturday morning, by Friday night into Saturday morning, the system is exiting. We'll have clearing conditions with bitterly cold temperatures across the prairie as this pattern just continues to reload. You'll see several features here as this map kind of ebbs and flows that are rather persistent. The red shaded area here, the big ridge across the Pacific, the western coast of North America, it wobbles, but it stays. And then deep troughing here on the right side across the Great Lakes, the Hudson Bay, eastern portions of Canada. And the result there is to just kind of, as I step through this next 15-day time frame and 5-day windows, this is the next 5 days, this is days 5 through 10, this is days 10 to 15. We really see the same pattern. Again, persistence here with that ridge of high pressure to our west. The deep area of low pressure off to our east, we're sandwiched between there in the Canadian Prairie. And so you follow the lines here that are rather tightly packed together, just basically coming north to south. So when the jet stream's coming from north to south, what's to our north? The Arctic. So we're getting air masses straight from the Arctic, just kind of, flushed down here with this northerly flow. And again, as the pieces kind of move, days, next 5 days, days 5 to 10, days 10 to 15, once again, not a lot of change in the overall pattern, even though things are kind of wobbling around a little bit. So the biggest impact from a pattern like this is to continually send shots of Arctic air down into the prairie and then at times down to the central U.S. So you see the blue shading there. That was the Friday through Sunday, Monday cold snap. And then the models here are kind of hinting at another one late January. So temperatures, I mentioned here, more mild as you rebound across the prairie right now. And then we're dealing with the bitterly cold temperatures here in the Midwest. We'll see the pattern evolve here as we get into Friday and Saturday. Now we are more mild while the next shot of colder air sweeps into the Canadian Prairie. But that air mass is making its way for us as well. I'll be feeling that by the time we get to Sunday. But bitterly cold. The coldest temperatures probably Saturday and Sunday, locked in over the weekend. You'll start to feel those temperatures moderate as we get into the early and mid part of next week. And then this is when the European is kind of hinting at another shot of bitterly cold air, maybe as we get into January 27th and 28th. So the pattern just kind of repeats is what I'm getting at through late January. I do, maybe anticipate a bit of a evolution in this pattern that we talked about here that could result in a more stormy and effectively snowy pattern here, but we're just going to have to kind of wait and see when that may actually transpire. Kind of looking at the precipitation over the next 2 weeks, you can see this pattern just reload. Here's the Canadian Prairie, and you just watch big areas of low pressure here, kind of like top left in the Aleutian Islands, the Gulf of Alaska. We get moisture, little disturbances that come over the top, and then just the flow from north to south across the prairie. We get disturbance there, a little clipper there, a little clipper there, a little clipper there. It's, 4 of them in the next 15 days that bring light doses of snow. We'll zoom in here, time it out a little bit more. Let me go ahead and bring this on back here to this current Wednesday morning. Quiet across the region. Snow moves through Thursday. Again, heaviest north of Highway 16, more in the way of flurries and snow showers across the prairie. Arctic front sweeps through. We are bitterly cold with maybe some light snow flurries over the weekend, but really just talking about a very cold air mass across the region. Pretty dry with high pressure overhead. Sunday, this is Monday. This is now Tuesday of next week. We get our next clipper, so some light snow as I'm, coming to you next week. Light snow carries on into Wednesday. This is the 22nd. Here's another little clipper system with some light snow. The 24th, another little clipper system with some light snow here as we get into the 26th and the 27th. And this is when the European AI forecast system has another shot of bitterly cold Arctic air in the forecast. So let's look side by side, European on the left, GFS on the right. Again, a corridor of snow north of Highway 16 that falls over the next 24 to 48 hours. You see some snow across the prairie, but it is light in nature. Nothing really to hang our hat on as far as here's a big storm with a lot of snow coming in. It is just the pattern reloading with clippers, shots of cold air, very light doses of snow. One more way to kind of tie this together, this is the European ensemble model, the probability of picking up at least 1/10 of an inch of moisture over the next 6 days. And again, where you see white on the map is where that probability is basically 0. And again, the big ridge across western North America makes sense then. There's a big hole in the precipitation that includes basically the western half of the United States and the Canadian Prairie. And as long as this high pressure cell just kind of persists across the region, that's going to be the precipitation pattern that really manifests. So again, the more impactful thing is going to be the temperatures over the next 10 days. You get a big shot of cold air coming in this weekend. Friday through Monday, going to be the coldest air mass. We'll be dealing with some extreme cold warnings across the region. Those overnight lows in the -20 range with afternoon highs between -10 and -15. Even colder in Edmonton, -28 for the low Sunday and Monday with high temperatures right around -20. For the weekend, even colder still as we move over to Saskatoon, -32, -35 on Monday morning with those highs, afternoon highs between -20 and -25. So extremely cold across the prairie over the weekend. Here is Regina, and then we'll finish it up here in Winnipeg. Extremely cold. Coldest days in Winnipeg, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Likely dealing with extreme cold warnings in the region, and then temperatures rebound. Heading into the deeper part of next week, off toward the east, the cold hangs on a little bit more. So even in on the warmer side of this next week, the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, in Winnipeg, we're talking about those lows in the -20 range with afternoon high temperatures between -10 and -14. So Not a lot of snow to talk about in the next 2 weeks, but we do have these shots of bitterly cold, potentially extremely cold air masses on their way across the Canadian Prairie. And as we head into the beginning of February, we'll continue to keep our eyes locked on the potential for an evolution in this pattern that could bring some more snow to the region. So have a great day. I'll talk to you next Wednesday. That's going to be January the 24th.